models, I can guarantee there is no drop in the levels of factor VIII. Dog model as well, and non-human primates is always complicated because of the formation of an antibody. So it will be a little bit tricky to find what is the mechanism, and if sometimes preclinical models they don't predict what happen in humans, and as we learned for the AAV capsid immune response, as the more we try very hard, we never reproduce. So there is only the long-term follow-up will be the answer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think regarding factor A, you think cells doesn't like to produce. We can also discuss that later on. Spark. It seems like their hemophilia A level maintained relatively well, and I believe their prophy treatment also may solve the previous where they saw cytotoxic T cell response. So we do hopefully we do have other factor A level that show some stability so far, and Sangamon data is still very early. Right? We only saw still very only a few months of data that they showed very high factor A level, right? So we do now have more factor A gene therapy coming to the market. Some of these hypotheses you proposed, do you think that also apply to others, or you think that this still would be very unique to BioMarin?
Well, that's a very good question. I do believe that the fluctuation of levels of factor VIII is a common thing among all these trials. As we discussed before, factor VIII needs to be carried by von Willebrand factor, and everybody has a different levels of von Willebrand compared to the others. Therefore, you expect some variation, but not as much as we are seeing here for BioMarin. And the other vectors that are made from Spark, for instance, compare with that, I think the vector system that they present, at least at ASH, is not impressive. But they do have a clear evidence that some patients develop AAV capsid-mediated immune response, and in most, but not all patients, the immune response was prevented or controlled by immunosuppression. But as we always predicted, there will be always some people that will not respond to immunosuppression, which is a normal thing in clinical medicine. Not everybody responds the same way for everything. And therefore, they try to give this patient like an IV injection of a very strong immunosuppressive, but it didn't work. Therefore, I think all the products out there for factor VIII, if I can just say simply, I don't think there is any winner. They all have a benefit, but also they have problems.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And another related question is, I think BioMarin also comment that the rate of factor A change is level dependent. I think on slide 11 they putting 6E13 and 4E13, and then look at the year 1, year 2, year 3 data, and the rate of decline. They claim that the 4E13 actually declined slower than the 6E13 with the initial factor A level. And if you go to slide 12, that's also basically is the model they come up with. And then the argument is because now the level is lower, then over time the decline rate will be also slower. Do you agree with that hypothesis?
No, I don't. The simple question, the simple answer for this is like this. When you calculate the gene copy number or the amount of vector in the AAV prep, there is a minus plus 30%. Therefore, if you go to 4 to 6 times 13, you have to think about this, that the variation is quite big, what we call, 4 and 6 E13. And what I have seen in the biomarine data is like when if you look at when they did the real low dose, mid dose, whatever you want to call, they have like a 2E13, a single patient never expressed more than 5%. And then they triple the dose, and then you have an overexpression. And they come up with 4E13 as an intermediate dose or whatever that is. And again, you don't see a clear dose response. Therefore, this prediction model is arbitrary at the best. They could be right, but I don't believe that this is reliable in terms of predicting what's going to happen, because nobody saw drop in levels of expression in other animal models from other disease. And whether this is specific to factor VIII, only time is going to tell us. But I don't believe it's related to factor VIII, because our own experience with dogs that we present at ASGCT, we have some 2 out of probably 8 dogs, I guess. The expression it went up, not down. So this is very unusual.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So maybe we can move to, by the way, for the audience who dial in, feel free to email me any questions if you want to be anonymous, and I will ask on your behalf. And you can email me at gina.wan@barclays.com, or you can also email Jamil as well, asking any questions. Dr. Arruda, so maybe we move to the phase 3 data. So maybe I think in our phase 3 interim data, we saw actually the factor A level basically cut by half. The initial similar, when we compare the similar time, right, from the phase 1/2 data, now we're talking about 33%, that's median, or 36% that's mean, compare the phase 1/2 data, the similar time frame, that's basically 57 or 68%. So what is your understanding, explanation that could explain that? I think BioMarin during the call, they pointed to like 2 possibilities, for the lower factor A level. One is they said phase 3 did not implement prophylactic treatment with the steroids, while phase 1/2 did. And also they said there's some subtle differences in product. And what is your view on this, why this there was a differences between phase 3 and phase 1 data?
Yeah. If you look at the page 18, I guess, that they have the phase 3 levels, one important thing to notice here is that you see how big is the variation is. The bars, you can have a median level, but the bars are all over the place. And I think because of the relatively small number of patients, it's very difficult to state what they are stating here, that this is stable or this will be predictable. I don't think you can say that based on the such a huge variation of data in a small group of patients. Probably if they have more patients over time, we'll be more comfortable. But, scientifically looking at, if you look even early time points and late time points, the bars, they are all over the place. And therefore, when you call median, is so arbitrary. So I think they try to simplify a very complex biological response, which is, to a certain extent, I do believe that it has to be a little bit related to expression of factor VIII. But the conclusion that they come up with is very naive to my understanding. That they should be more insightful and really consider, this wide range of normal. You should, a wide range of levels. You have to take in consideration when to make a conclusion, and they're not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think there are several questions, and I do have email questions coming. So basically, asking, there are some patients. I think from slide 18, you mentioned that there are a few patients actually you could tell they are non-responders. I think 3 patients, the factor A level basically below 5%, right? So you could tell those non-responders very early on. Do you think you could just separate these non-responders and then looking at the responders like early on? Do you think that still be very meaningful if we just look at the responders?
Yeah, that's why it's a very unique way to present data. The most important thing is to show in the single patient that then you can see if somebody expressed a lot at the beginning and